恭喜发财，恭喜发财，chúc mừng năm mới. Happy New Year, happy year of the ox. It's 2021. I wish we could have our dumpling party in person this year, but instead, grab a bag of popcorn, sit down. I've got a super condensed 13-minute video that'll teach you how to make dumplings for a huge party. I just wanted to thank you everyone so much for being great clients and referral partners. Normally, I like to host a dumpling party, but wasn't in the cards this year. So instead, I've decided to put something together so maybe you can make dumplings at home. So what I'm going to show you here is how you can make about 400 dumplings. I've got about $50 of ingredients. So for the filling, we're looking at maybe 12 cents per dumpling. And then if you add the wrappers and some of the seasonings and stuff, we're maybe at 20 cents per each. And it's a lot of fun. It's a good family activity. So to get started, I'll just kind of walk you through some of the ingredients. Went to Costco today and picked up some pork belly. It's pre-sliced. You don't have to get it pre-sliced. A little cheaper if you don't. And I just did it for convenience so I can slide it through the grinder. And this is pork shoulder here that's also pre-sliced, which you also don't have to do that. Pork-wise, we're looking at about 5 pounds of pork belly and about 10 pounds of pork shoulder. And you want to try and find a pork shoulder that has a nice amount of fat in it. The key here is that you want the dumplings to have a good amount of fat in it. You can get pre-ground pork, no problem. In fact, like New Seasons has a pretty good grind there, but a lot of times pre-ground pork just doesn't have the fat content that you want for dumplings, because you want it to be kind of soft and rich inside. So yeah, in addition to that, I've got a few eggs, bok choy, green onions, garlic, ginger. This is elephant garlic actually, and some seasonings. I've got fung moi, which is fermented tofu, sesame oil, a couple types of soy sauce, salt and pepper. Nothing too crazy, but really what the process is we're just gonna run the meat through the grinder, run the veggies through the grinder, mix it up by hand with the eggs, and call it a day. So like I said, yeah, if you don't have one of these, you can just use 1 or 2 of these and chop it up yourself, or you can buy pre-ground stuff, or even use a food processor as well. Yeah, to start with, we just get this baby going. Make sure everything's all tight here, and then just run the meat through. Some of these pieces, if they're a little big, you might need to cut them up a bit. And I just kind of do that while I'm grinding, because it takes time. So as you're going along, you might want to kind of alternate, a couple pieces of the pork shoulder, a couple pieces of the pork belly, and then a third of your vegetables. Put some of the seasoning in. That way, it's nice and sort of already mixed up a little bit. So at the end, when you're meshing everything together, hopefully you get more of a homogeneous mixture. Okay, now that we've got everything ground up, we can move on to the next part, which is just getting the seasoning all set up for that. So I'm going to add my eggs, plenty of salt, the fung moi, give it a little funk, sesame oil, soy sauce, a couple of different varieties here, crack on some pepper, And the best way to just mix everything up is really to just dig in with your hands. You can really feel as well that everything's kind of mixed together nicely that way. And if you want to put other stuff in here too, you know, it's dealer's choice. If you like it spicy, you can put in, you know, chili oil and chili pepper. And you're probably thinking like, hey, Jordan, this is a huge amount of meat. We'll never eat that much. It's not gonna get done in one sitting, and that's kind of the beauty of this mixture is it's a nice base. So, you know, we'll use a good portion of it in the first few days making dumplings, and then we'll freeze a couple Ziploc bags full of the meat. So when we have more time later on, we can keep making them. One of the really most important things that a lot of people miss is that you need to taste your mixture. Normally I would, you know, put it in a dumpling wrapper and boil it and try it, because you kind of want to taste it how you're going to eat it. I'm just going to try it in the pan and make sure that you know, got a nice amount of salt and seasoning. So this baby's ready to try. Looks like the meat held together okay. Texture's good. I think it needs a little bit more seasoning just so I can taste all the flavor of the ginger and garlic. It needs a little more salt, a little more soy, but it's pretty much there. And also think about like what you're gonna serve it with too. So if you're gonna serve it with a dipping sauce, don't go crazy seasoning your meat. All right, now that our meat's all ready to go, the next step is the fun part. So for this part, we're gonna need the meat that we made earlier, small dish of water, clean work surface, half sheet tray with some parchment paper down, and we'll also need 1-ton wrappers. There's lots of options for 1-ton wrappers. Pay attention to where it says thick and thin. The extra thick, I would never bother with those. Those are okay for frying. And the extra thin, those are super thin. I don't even love those for 1-ton. So the process for this, you know, I try and set it up kind of like a, you know, Henry Ford style, where I put them out like a factory line. That you'll see one side has a little bit more flour than the other side. I put that side down. You know, if you're working with your family, you can just kind of lay them all out and do it all together. It's a pretty fun thing to do. And then, oh yeah, you'll probably want a little towel here too to just, you know, help keep yourself clean. I try and work like a factory and do one step at a time. It helps to have a spoon that's smaller too, so it kind of measures it for you while you're going. If these wrappers sit out for too long, they will dry out a little bit and they won't seal as nicely as you would like them to. Okay. I got my meat set, and then I'll just go 3 at a time. 1. So I'm just getting the 2 edges wet, and then I will fold towards that corner there, invaginating the meat, as my dad likes to say, and pressing it down. So you got a triangle. So make sure you got a good seal there, and then so after you've got this triangle, the next step is the part that throws people off a little bit. So what I do is I just wet, when I'm looking at it like this, the right side, and then I turn it there and just bring the ends together, kind of like what you would do for a tortellini. And like I said, you know, there's no right way of doing this, but the reason I like to do it like that is it sits up and presents nicely like that. And then when I go to put them on the tray, you know, I can kind of keep them separate from each other. So again, kind of like you know, you're bringing the arms together like it's hugging itself. And that way you can see they'll sort of lay nicely there for freezing. So these dumplings have been sitting in the tray overnight in the freezer, and they're all completely frozen and ready to go. So I'm gonna label this package. An important thing if you're like me and shove a bunch of crap in your freezer and forget about it, because you know these will be good for about a year. So I'm gonna put the date and the contents. If you do it after you bag them, you're gonna have a little problem there. So make sure you do that before. And then you just load them up like that. And the beauty of this is that you can reach into your freezer and, oh, I'm hungry, just gonna boil up 5 of these and make a quick snack. Or, you know, the kids will beg for them and you wanna have them for lunch every day. All right, well now we've got them all bagged up and ready to go. Each tray is about 100 dumplings and about 50 per bag, and they pack nicely in your freezer. You know, you can lie them flat, stack them, or put them in the deep freeze as well. All right, now for the fun part. Here's the part where we get to cook and eat the dumplings. So first thing, when you drop your dumplings in, you know, put them in boiling water. Make sure a few seconds after you put them in the boiling water, give them a little stir. What will happen is when they're frozen, they drop to the bottom, and then they'll immediately adhere to the bottom of the pan, and then it breaks open, it's just a big mess, and nobody likes a big mess. So give them a little stir when you throw them in. I've got ingredients here. I've got green onion for topper. I've got some lao gama, little hot sauce, black vinegar. In China, you know, they just like, they eat dumplings often with black vinegar, depending on where you're at in China. A little sesame oil, and some finishing soy sauce. You know, you can make your sauce combination ahead of time, which is what I do when I'm hosting. Take a batch of dumplings, throw them in the pot, toss them together with the sauce, and then serve them like that, so it's all kind of ready to go and you don't have to do it to order. And then I also have this timer here because we all get busy. It doesn't matter how good of a chef you are. Whenever I drop them, I put my timer on so I don't forget about them. And there it is. So, it's been 5 minutes. These should be cooked, ready to go. Another way you can tell is when they start floating to the top is good too. Slotted spoon, pour them out into the bowl. Add my sauces, little hot sauce. You don't, obviously, if you don't like it spicy, you don't have to add spicy. This one's not really spicy. Splash of vinegar. Some people will balance vinegar with sugar. I don't necessarily think it needs that, but you know, everyone kind of has their own taste. And then a quick splash of soy sauce. And then I think one of the keys here is you take this this dumpling water, the cooking liquid, and you just give it a little splash, you know, so it kind of mellows out your sauce and also gives it a little bit of hydration. So if they're sitting around, it's gonna reabsorb this liquid. So when you're hosting a party and have dumplings just hanging, that way they won't get too dry. And it's like that. And yep, then we'll just hit them with little green onion and it'll be good to serve. Mmm. Yep. Mmm. Well, thank you for tuning in. If you have any questions about dumplings, if I missed any steps in the process, just reach out anytime. I'll leave my contact information below. And thank you so much.